There's an amazing story of a Japanese man who, during the Second World War, he was on a little island and was told by his commanding officer, do not surrender this island, and until you are commanded to do so. Okay, until basically I tell you to do something. And so and this is a true story, absolutely true story. He went with his little troop, and even after the war was done, held out. And there were flyers sent by the American government saying, "Hey, listen, the war's over. Everyone go back home." And they looked at the flyers, and he decided that these flyers weren't true. They were propaganda, meant to negate the orders that he'd been given. And so he stayed on the island, and he kept killing people with another group of Japanese soldiers like him. And there actually was a group of 4 of them that lasted, I think, 10 years after the Second World War was done. And I mean, the Japanese emperor even sent out flyers saying, "Hey, listen, if there's anyone else holding out, please come back. Your families are missing you." Families sent pictures, families sent letters. And he kept on deciding every single time, it's fake, this is a trick, I'm going to hold out. Well, after 10 years, one of them died. And then after another, I think it was after another 5 years or so, another one of them died, and there were only 2 left. But these 2 men, I think it was the early 70s, like 72 or something, they were still there. They were still there. Now, this is 30 years after World War II is finished. And these two individuals are still there. They're still burning farmers' fields. They're still causing havoc. They're eating rats and whatever. They're surviving and doing really well. But again, true story. This is so crazy. This one man, finally his buddy died. And was shot by, I think, policemen or something on the island, because they kept killing people and shooting fishermen and stealing things. And so finally this one guy, Onoda, it was a mythic almost creature. He was a story. He was like the Sasquatch. Finally, another Japanese man went out to the island and ended up finding him and befriending him, and he still refused to come back. He said, "What would it take for you to come back?" He said, "My commanding officer has to tell me, come back." So the Japanese government found this guy. This commanding officer was the owner of a bookstore now. He was having a normal job for 30 years. And he finally goes out to the island and says, "Onoda, I command you, come back. I'm your commanding officer, come back." And so Onoda came back to Japan, where he was lauded as a hero in many ways. And when I think about this story, I am fascinated, because on one hand, he was doing everything right. When he died years later, he ended up living in Brazil for a while. When he died years later, I think in his 90s, he said he had no regrets, that he had done what he was told to do, that he had lived a very fulfilled life because he'd been living up to his orders. Okay, he had fulfilled lived a fulfilled life because he'd fulfilled his orders. And I think about this and go, wow. A person can live what they believe is a very fulfilled life in many ways. And it's a life absolutely wasted. 100% wasted. He ignored everything. He ignored truth. He ignored facts. He ignored everything else. Lived a very fulfilled life. But the fulfilled life was a life where he was killing people. He was hurting others. He was not doing anything for the world, any useful thing for the world, for himself, for his family, nothing. Okay? And then came back to Japan and complained that culture had changed too much, okay? That they weren't living up to the ideals set before. Here are my thoughts on this. And here's my encouragement and my challenge to you. I don't care if you're living a fulfilled life. On some level. On some level. A fulfilled life is not the only thing. You need to live a fulfilled life that has purpose, that's doing something that's making the world better. Okay? So you need to get outside of yourself. Forget about simply what your own little belief system is. And ask yourself, okay, I'm living a fulfilled life on some level, but is it a useful life? Does my life have any meaning apart from what I'm giving it? And some people might argue, well, as long as you're fulfilled, that's fine. I disagree. You've got to do something that's going to be good for this world. So ask yourself right now, what am I doing for this world? How can I make the world a little bit better right now? Because if that's not what you're doing, you're going to be remembered as an absolute fool if you're remembered at all. And I believe that's important.